On April 18, 2020, the central government amended the Consolidated FDI Policy of 2017 with the stated view of curbing opportunistic takeovers or acquisitions of Indian companies due to COVID-19. Press Note 3 of 2020, issued by the DPIIT, amends paragraph 3.1.1 of the FDI policy to introduce the following two new restrictions while leaving prior restrictions intact. Firstly, an entity of a country which shares land borders with India, or where the beneficial owner of an investment into India is situated in, or is a citizen of any such country, can invest only under the government route. Secondly, government approval will also be required where subsequent changes in beneficial ownership, whether by way of direct or indirect transfers, of any existing or future FDI would result in such beneficial ownership falling within the purview of the first restriction. The largest impact will be to investments from China, although this development will also impact investments from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Bhutan, Afghanistan, and Nepal. This development is expected to have a large impact on the fundraising efforts of startups and other companies in a time where sources of funding have already diminished. Companies that already have Chinese investors on board will find follow-on rounds difficult to undertake if those investors do not waive their rights to play pro rata. This policy change will also impact exits for financial investors, as potential transferees may need to be tested for compliance with the beneficial ownership, citizenship, and location restrictions. Similar challenges may be faced by holders of rights of preemption in Indian companies against other shareholders. The exercise of such rights and the effect of Press Note 3 on the same are likely to either result in delays while approvals are sought, or disputes where the implications of Press Note 3 on existing rights of preemption or capitalization will come into scrutiny. This policy change may also impact foreign entities who have subsidiaries, group companies, or investee companies in India, and who are looking to raise funds in their own offshore jurisdictions, or whose shareholders are looking to sell their stakes, or who are looking to further capitalize their Indian interests. It is important to note that existing provisions in the FDI policy may permit companies to seek approvals once and then attempt to use those approvals for additional foreign investment up to a cumulative amount of 50 billion rupees into the same entity within an approved foreign equity percentage or into a wholly owned subsidiary. This means that tranched investments may not require separate approvals for each tranche, subject, of course, to the terms of such approvals. Companies undertaking or planning capital events based on existing approvals may need to reevaluate the same, as similar dispensations already available under the FDI policy for approvals already granted may need to be revisited in light of the revised policy. Concerns will also be felt around the fact that Press Note 3 uses but does not define the terms beneficial owner and beneficial ownership. These terms could be potentially interpreted by reference to similar terms under either the Companies Act 2013 or the Reserve Bank of India's Master Direction on Know Your Customer Directions. However, given that these terms are defined very differently under these two pieces of legislation, it would be important to see if clarity emerges within the construct of exchange control laws. The use of the terms direct or indirect will also create a degree of uncertainty as to how to determine the ambit of the restrictions. The amendments will come into force with effect from the date of the FEMA notification that operationalizes this policy change, and perhaps clarity will emerge therefrom. Based on the provision being amended through Press Note 3, it appears that portfolio investments by FPIs are outside the ambit of the proposed changes. There is some concern in some quarters that Press Note 3 could be read as applying to portfolio investments by FPIs, although a plain reading would not support this view. Portfolio investments by FPIs are otherwise regulated by SEBI, and recent press reports suggest that SEBI recently asked custodians for details of investments coming from or via China into Indian stock markets. Therefore, it is not unlikely that SEBI might independently consider similar measures as well. Any overly conservative readings or additional severe measures would have a meaningful impact on Indian stock markets, since a number of public market funds that invest into India are based out of Hong Kong. whether such changes would result in claims under the applicable bilateral investment treaties would also need further evaluation.